Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Been out here getting this all sorted out. This is a lot of the lumber we've been drying, stuff we've cut up in the past couple ash cutting videos, and I'm excited to finally get to working with some of this stuff. But unfortunately, not all of it's dried very straight. I'll go ahead and show you some of those pieces. So this one here looks like a pretty nice 2x4 from first glance, but I think you can tell it's got some pretty nice bows to it. Especially as you go across the length of it, it just has this big nice hump in the middle of it. So overall, I've not been super happy with how they're drying out so far, but we really want to get something built. So we're working back through some of this, cutting some of it a little bit smaller to sizes that we can get to be straight now that it's fairly dry, and hopefully then we can go ahead and use that. So all the boards you see here in front of me were all dried from within the well shed over here, and they did get decently dry. Go ahead and show you that bent one that I had just a minute ago. I haven't recut this or anything, but we're looking around 15%. It's not great for indoor furniture use, but it's certainly kind of past some of that point of drying and getting that warping to it. But some of these are getting down pretty good. Just a couple percent here. Some around 9, some 10, some 15, just kind of depending on when they were cut. But really some of the best stuff is all that we air dried, those slabs. When I touch the surfaces of those, now granted the internal stuff could be quite a bit more moist than the stuff on the surface here, but the surface on this stuff is generally reading between 6 and 8% depending on where you get these. So it's been pretty good overall. Problem is, I didn't have extra straps to get onto the slabs out here, so these didn't dry quite as flat as I wanted. Some of them aren't really that bad, especially as you get further down where they had more weight on them. But the amount of cracking on the edges here just hasn't been great. So what I'm doing is I'm working these back through the mill and getting those 2x6s that we need for our bed frame. I'm gonna basically cut out sections out of the sides here where it's still pretty nice, kind of go around some of these cracks that we've got and get out of it what I want. Since I've got the extra thickness, that can help us. I've already recut the top here, so this is already flat. Then I can flip it, cut again, get it to the size I want, probably 1.5 inches here, and then I can lift it up on its side, take off the live edges, and get the edges that I want, so I can get some 2x6s out of this, because that's what we're looking to do, is get the edges for the bed frame that we're making. So that's what some of this scrap is here, is I'm just taking nice thin layers off, just whatever thickness I've got to do to make sure I get a flat plane again. And then of course once we get the pieces done, then we can go ahead and sand the final pieces down, and that should be all we need to do, because this is getting it pretty nice and flat in here. So it'll be nice and easy to work with. Just a hand sander, a little motorized sander will be plenty for all of this. I already did that with a couple pieces last night. So I've got a 2x4 here and a 2x6 below it. Almost perfectly straight. Just went ahead and took the slight bow that they had, the bow toward the bottom, bow toward the top, and clamped those together to hold that tight with the stickers there. Just to hold that in place till I'm ready to use it. Then I'll cut off the edges where we've got a little bit of cracking that had happened already before this was ever put here. Take off the edge there, and then that should be good to be used. And another piece down here that I can cut some out of as well. So that's the plan, at least for now, is to go ahead and recut, get what we can out of these. Some of these trees that have been standing dead for several years, apparently that's something that can happen pretty easily with them, is they'll kind of start drying in imperfect ways, to where once you cut it through, you make some slabs, you'll get a lot bigger splits out of it, regardless of what you're trying to do with it. I guess if I had a kiln, maybe it would work out a little bit better. But other than that, you're gonna have a bit more cracking and splitting. Even though we've got the anchor seal on there, didn't seem to hold it together too well for us. Though I will say that the ones we had in the shed that have been drying a bit slower did fare a little bit better with the cracking at those smaller dimensional sizes. But you live and learn, and we've learned that we at least need to be stacking our slabs somewhere else in a little bit more shade, might be able to help prevent some of that cracking. The anchor seal wasn't enough to prevent that when air drying. So probably use a shadier spot next time, see how that goes. I've got plenty more dead ash that I'll be experimenting with. And if those don't work, even in more shade, chances are I'll just use ash for firewood for now on. I'm gonna go ahead and get some more of these cut up, see what other kind of boards we can get. Well, the sunsets certainly come a lot sooner. This is near the end of October out here in Indiana. But with what light we have left, I want to go ahead and get this slab cut up. I've got the two sides of it sort of planed with the mill, so it looks a lot flatter now. So fairly dry slab at this point and flat. So got it clamped in here. I went ahead and had to use these blocks just because of the design of how these clamps are. I kind of needed to have a little bit more material here to push that in. So I added in a block with each one of these. But now that those are in place and I've got it as level as I can really get it to align with the cut I want to make through the middle here, which means I only actually have a contact point here and one on the other end here. The middle has got a little gap to it. So it might be a little bit more wobbly from that, but the clamps should hold that in place just fine. I'm gonna go ahead and cut into here however far I have to kind of clean up this edge. We'll measure from there. This is about a 9.5 foot long slab, so even if from here to the end is all we get, that's still going to be plenty for just a 75 inch that we need for the rail for this bed frame. And go ahead and get that cut up. Well, I think the mill did a pretty good job of getting these pretty well flat and cleaning them up quite a bit. But I was kind of dreading having to go across and sand all these, and while I could do that, the holidays gave me a really good deal on a planer, so went ahead and got that. I'm going to go ahead and send these through. We're going to go ahead and see how well we can clean these up and what they look like. The results here have been absolutely fantastic. Super smooth wood here. Just a few little spots. I might run some fine grained sandpaper over them and just to kind of finish that off, but just absolutely gorgeous. Nice and smooth here. Beautiful edges here. You could see it went through that planer just fine, both on the wide sides and the thin sides here to just clean that up. Just absolutely beautiful. Of course, we'll do some filling in on some spots here when we get to staining and finishing all of this and putting it all together, but not too worried about these since it's right at the middle. You know, this is going to be just fine once we seal that in. So yeah, really excited to see how this turned out, and we throwing about everything else I've got through that planer now that I've got it, especially all this ash that has been drying for quite a while. Clean it all up, especially all these pieces we want to use for a bed frame project that we're going to be continuing here soon. So gonna go ahead and plane the rest of what I've got, start sorting it out, decide what I need to use for which purpose, and maybe then we'll get this thing assembled. So if you'd like to see some of the other projects we've been working on, recommend checking out this video next. Thanks for watching.